Hi guys, Parvez here. I am with Jivraj Singh today. Jivraj is a CFA. He runs venture operations at AngelList. He is also a podcaster. His podcast is called Indian Silicon Valley. So, how are you doing, Jivraj? How's
I'm
everything
doing
going?
great, Parvez. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm more than excited. So, what do you mean by running venture operations? Means like what comes in it when we say venture operations?
Right. So, as a platform, we're trying to ensure that we can ensure access to a wider range of angel investors and ensure that they can get access to startups, right?
Mm,
So, when that happens, a lot of what the product does requires a sort of operational flow to it, right?
mm,
Operational efficiency
mm,
to it. Whenever an investor is signing up on the platform, there is something that we have to do on our end. There are multiple processes during deal operations that come into the picture. So
mm,
anything that requires operational oversight, I am taking care of right now, and we're expanding the team and adding more members to it. Given that, as we scale the org,
mm,
out of AngelList in India, given that the startup ecosystem is thriving, we want to ensure that we can be prepared for that ride, and
mm,
we want to equip ourselves with the best possible manner. So in short, venture operations is dealing with any operational oversight in the platform
mm.
regarding investors, deal operations, syndicate operations. Those are things we can dive deeper into if required, but in a nutshell, that's it.
Get it. So, according to you, how has investment scenario changed in India in like past few years? Because from past few years we are seeing that it's democratizing, so like day by day. Like if we see
Right.
previously, capital was considered as a moat in India. Like at the time when
Yeah.
Flipkart started, like even if I say around 2012, 13, capital was really a moat. But now we
Right.
see talent being one. So how do you see it? How has the investment scenario changed?
Yeah, no, that's a very valid question, right? And the caveat is that I have a very brief experience in investments as well. And my core role is not, of course, investments, but from very little experience of passively consuming the ecosystem, I perhaps can, objectively present my viewpoint. So, therein, I think investments has grown to a second order effect now. We're now seeing that cycles have played out, right? And we now know what results have shown as well, because with the IPOs coming in as well, with the capital overflow, with the COVID wave hitting us as well, we've seen how the ecosystem will react and what results and outcomes can be expected. When that happens, a large part of the ecosystem matures, it becomes systematic, you can identify trends and accordingly ride them. And so we've seen some sort of ecosystem behavior every now and then, because if you realize, investments were very infrastructural in nature early on, right? The
Mm,
ecosystem was progressing. We had the Flipkarts, Olas of the India and the world coming and rising, right? Then
mm,
there's a theme every couple of years that rises, right? There was hyper
mm,
local, which was the theme at once.
mm,
Food delivery was the theme. EdTech seems to be the theme of the country right now, and there are multiple other waves that ride. But beyond that, if we look at it, it's just that as any ecosystem matures, you see these second order effects starting to kick in because people are more aware, people are more thorough in their approach, and that is what we see right now. And in terms of what you mentioned in terms of capital, right? Capital was a moat earlier, but it's been commoditized now. So increasingly enough, we see that while capital is easily available and
mm,
in abundance, there is something else which will have to make a difference. And so a
mm,
lot of VC funds, talking from a very venture capital perspective right now, a lot of VC funds are now trying to ensure that they can truly create an ecosystem, an institution around them, so that they can support the life cycle of a founder, not just with money,
mm,
but beyond the money with the different
mm.
aspects of an institution, so that anything that a founder needs, which is mechanical in nature, where an outside perspective is required, that can be helped along with, apart from the funds as well, right? So that's how it's evolving. I think it's in interesting times, very very fascinating for anybody building in the country, because innovation is flowing, problems
Mm.
are rising, problems are getting solved on the infrastructure level, but the deeper aspects of each problem are coming across. So yeah, with the capital availability, I think interesting times ahead of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see the same too. And okay, so what are the reasons behind like it accelerating? Like why?
Yeah. I think a large part of it has to do with success, right? We're now seeing these what does these unicorn news even mean for us, right? We
Hmm.
see that there is a certain sense of validation coming in that, okay, this can make financial sense as well, and the outcomes for it can tangibly result in great aspects of the economy that we've never witnessed before, right?
Hmm.
A Zomato story, that's special purely because it actually clarifies the hypothesis. It's not a hypothesis anymore, it's a result. And so more people believe in the system. The more success stories that exist, the more people come into the system. There's more belief from a qualitative and a quantitative standpoint. So I think that has been a major factor.
Hmm.
And I think every ecosystem has its journey, right? It's not like a US or a China ecosystem
Hmm.
was from day one thriving, right? It takes time to build.
Hmm.
A lot of entrepreneurs have contributed to solving the first leg of the problem, right? Like a delivery exists, which is why so many e-commerce startups can come along, right? Another hyper local exists, that is why last mile delivery is getting solved in a way. Then there are aggregators for healthcare platforms, that is why we can now look at specific healthcare use cases, right?
Hmm.
So all of the infrastructural changes have been done. So the first layer of the ecosystem is now solidifying regarded, right? And that cannot be shook. Now, once that happens, the fundamentals being strong, you can keep rising one step at a time and create a presence from it. So I think all of those factors in some shape or form contribute to why everybody is now getting more and more interested. And this is here to stay. It's not a, I think a lot of people talk about bubbles and all of that, and that
Hmm.
they can have better insights on it. I don't think I can speak from experience about it, but I think net it's all positive, and it's going to be so for the next 20 to 30 years till we take on the become the largest economy in the world, hopefully someday.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Even I'm very bullish on it because when I see the, when I see India from current scenario, there is a, like few days back, I saw a few students from Bits Pilani. They are still in the last year. They raised the seed round of 3.25 CR. Like
Yeah.
who had imagined this like 5 years back or like 10 years back that like obviously like it has become a bit like you can surely drive few examples like that like if you jump into the books and all but still it's still fascinating, right? Like 21-year-olds like raising funds and all. Obviously like funding and all is like other side, uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, we can say that it's maturing day by day.
Absolutely. Very exciting times, as I mentioned, and very hopeful, very refreshing for us as well to just observe and be at the center of it while it happens. What you're mentioning about is for Harish, right, of Blue Learn,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I happy to see that as well. Harish is a perfect testament of how youngsters, creators can actually do so many tangible things out of what they are passionate about and express themselves, and everybody will be there to support them. I think
Yeah.
how the what stands out about the ecosystem is the support that everybody is willing to offer. The manifestation of it can be different, right? Us
Mm.
talking is a testament of it. Somebody getting funded is a testament of it. Somebody getting on a phone call at 1 o'clock in the night is also a testament of it.
Yeah.
But it's all a manifestation of the support, and that's where I think the ecosystem has risen to just be there for each other and ensure that India as a whole platform will eventually grow. And that's, I think, just amazing to observe.
Yeah. So, so I read once this book called Zero to One by Peter Thiel. It's a very
Yeah.
famous book, and in that he was talking about the dot-com bubble burst. I think it was in the first few chapters only, and when I compare it to the scenario now in India, like as you said, we like even I'm not able to draw any parallels which can say that Indian current Indian startup ecosystem is a bubble, because at that
Yeah.
time you saw it was like there's the story of Netscape. It just came a year, and I guess a year and a half, and they just like went for an IPO, and their
Yeah.
IPO was a huge success. So so that is the classic story of a dot-com bubble burst. Right, but I'm not able to see anything like that. Now it's obviously what I
Yeah.
see is the startup ecosystem getting matured day by day. The
Yeah.
the problem of capital is being solved. That's
Right.
what I'm able to like currently draw parallels to.
Absolutely. No, as you mentioned, the conjecture around bubble will always exist because any sort of extreme is not right, and
Yeah.
that just raises eyebrows. So I think on that front, there's nobody to blame as such, but the conjecture will always stay. I think for that there might be companies that will end up feeling as well that why there will be certain edge cases as well, but that doesn't represent the majority at any
Hmm.
point in time. So we can't make conclusions based on a certain set of incidents that are happening, in my opinion. And so I don't believe it's a bubble at all. I think it's all for the positive. In the net long run, it has to go positive. And as you mentioned, right, I mean, there are solid fundamentals here. There are multiple factors that contribute to the success, and we are seeing that inflection point. Hopefully it goes up, and hopefully we are not wrong here. But yeah, it's good to just talk about these things so that we're aware. But eventually for founders and for funders, right, for investors, it boils down to specific case scenarios and looking at that, any particular instance for that matter, objectively. And as long as that is happening, I don't think all of these conversations are pretty subjective and don't materialize to anything. So yeah, inconsequential.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are the startup trends do you see in the coming years? Like 2020, we saw was the year of tech. 2021 is like the hottest sector is fintech. Like you can see so many
Yeah.
fintechs coming up. Like I can almost say this is the year of neobank and fintech.
Yeah.
Like in 2020 and somewhere the FamPay came in. After that it was then Fi, Jupiter, and also many more in between. Like Junio came in. So how do you so what do you think will be in 2022 hospitality segment, because we can see the revenge traveling and all going on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what sector
No,
do you
that's
see in 2021 or two? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of trends, to be honest, because I feel those are very subjective and short-sighted. We can
Hmm.
pattern match, but honestly, that's again cherry picking a couple of sectors and then trying to force fit. But having said that, I think in the long run, like as you mentioned, I think hospitality is going to come back, right? Because it's inevitable. There has to be some shape or form. What form it takes, only time will tell, but eventually it should come back. Then we're seeing a strong focus on the crypto wave riding as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
those startups are coming up. India is also trying to catch up on that front, and it's great, right? Like to see
Yeah.
that level of innovation coming in is phenomenal. Similarly, gaming and other not so known sectors, right, like clean tech, sustainability, these are again places where not the best innovation has happened from the country, but things like sustainability and clean tech, they're again inevitable. Somebody will do it, right? Because you have to solve for it. What are some truths that will have to be solved? Sustainability definitely fits that definition. So somebody will do it. Who and why and how is a question that still remains to be answered. But yeah, specifically about next year, I think consumer startups are on the rise. SaaS is on the rise, and
Yeah.
these are also unprecedented. Again, this is because the primary infrastructure of, again, when we talk about it, the smartphone penetration, the internet penetration, number of users on the internet rising, and consumer behavior changing, all of that leads to the fundamental shift of people becoming smarter and having the ability to buy online economically and infrastructurally. Once that happens, that is a clear cue for the consumer segment rising. If you can serve 700, 800 on million people in an economy, then you are bound to succeed even if you grasp a small share of the market, right? So new consumer brands are coming up, and I think that is extremely exciting for me personally and for the country, as we see new products coming in and incumbents being forced to innovate, right?
Yes.
That is there. And SaaS again is a focus area for a lot of people, and we've seen traditional stories of the Zohos, Freshworks of the country really rise, Postman, iCertis, and a lot of them. Now more focus on them is coming up, since funding has grasped our eye, and we can see known examples, which is why I think more innovation will also take place. But all in all, as you can observe from my conversation as well, it's net positive for almost each industry, and everything is up for grabs as long as we can look at it from a deeper layer and try and solve for it from in some shape or form.
Okay. So I would like to ask you a question, like from the thing you said, that if we see the internet penetration in India and all, obviously, Geo, like we can say that Geo played a huge role in in where we can see the Indian startup ecosystem today. Like it would have been very slow or nearly impossible without Geo to be at this stage at this point in 2021, right? So how do you think like what do you think, how real is the internet penetration in India? Because from most that I have seen, that internet in India is still is still used as a medium to consume entertainment. Like if we see like if we see, most of them is diverted towards social media, or like on the platforms like YouTube and all for the entertainment and also. So how do you think like how real is the internet penetration in India?
Right. No, that's again a good question because it raises the fundamental question of application of internet penetration, right? So
Mm,
once internet is penetrated, how can we best use it?
mm,
And therein, I think the primary reason is once you get a device and once you have access to internet, the first form will be recreation because until there in tier 2, 3 cities, the infrastructure is still pretty much the same, right?
mm,
Modes of income are still pretty much the same, and so their day to day isn't changing apart from the fact that they now have a device that they can leverage and do other things of. Till consumer trends reach them, I think the first primary use case will also be as we started, right? Early on,
mm,
mobile trends were to connect with each other, right?
mm,
Social media came on the mobile and that got really viral. Then there was WhatsApp, and then there were the other usages of people shifting to an online first economy, which will take time in India for happen, but it
mm,
will eventually happen, right? So if you look at the 500 million internet users in the country, the largest pie is of course for the share chats of the country because
mm.
that is use case that they first serve. Then
Yeah.
why is fintech hot? Again, I feel a large portion of for that is also we have, I think, around 200 million odd bank accounts in the country. That number is going to significantly rise.
Yes.
As that number significantly rises, we have to ensure that what are modes of banking that they can refer to. So
Mm,
thus penetration will further go up and everything follows. So if you follow the numbers closely, I think there will first be again a top of the layer where e-commerce will be enabled, fintech will be enabled, consumption will be enabled, and those use cases will get filled. Then the second order effects will come in where more serious things like healthcare will start penetrating the smaller cities, right? There are
mm,
double, then consumer segments will also start growing there, so consumer brands can leverage off it. Then businesses will start coming. SME segment and serving them is a huge segment in the country,
yes.
right? So many apps are being created for that segment, and rightly so, because we need them to be equipped with technology so that they can facilitate our economy on that front. So yeah, I think we need to just zoom back, look at things from a fundamental point, and also recognize like it's amazing how baffling these numbers are, right? If
Yes.
you think about a number from the US, the entire US population is around 3.350 odd million, right? And when
Mm,
we talk about it from our lens, we're talking at 500 million internet users for a 1.4 billion population. If
yes.
we can penetrate that entirely, which will happen someday, it might take 15, 20, 30, or 5 years even, right?
Mm,
When, it still remains to be answered. And but if is not a question anymore. If has been answered, it will happen. When will it happen, we need to see. But yeah, I think that's a overall rambling of the
mm.
fact that if you just zoom in and look at the fundamentals, you can derive a lot of fundamental use cases that exist.
Interesting. Like you have really interesting take. Okay, so when you said this, I was I was thinking of something and I was able to drive one pattern out of it. Okay, that as you said, the first thing is always about the going social, like solving this problem where people can reach out to each other and all. And if we see and there is the commerce and fintech and all, but now we see like the startups coming up are uh, are coming up as a mix of social, the first piece, and then attaching it with the second thing, like the consumer, like if we see the social commerce is picking up, and after that if we see the I was having a chat with the founder of Elon Markets and Stock, and they said that they are building something which is like Reddit of stock market. So we are seeing that social part, and even that the other part, like commerce, or if we say the
Yeah.
wealth tech, and also so this both is mixing up, and again launching as a new product. And even
Yeah.
we saw this a startup called Flow, which is like wait, I don't want to be wrong on what its concept is, but it's like you can discuss and see what's the portfolio of your friends and all. So we are
Yeah.
seeing the social trends going up, which is mixed with the other sectors.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it boils down to ways in which you can distribute. Social, I think the fundamental use cases, connecting people on a common medium and thus distributing to a larger audience at the same time, right?
Hmm,
And
hmm,
that needs to be leveraged. Now, if you look at consumer patterns, we know that social works, right? So, can you build
sure.
distribution? Can you combine that application with something on top of it, right? So,
Hmm,
social commerce is one obvious example, and as you mentioned, that's great. Then social trading, these trends have now started to come in the US as well, and they are visible, right?
hmm, hmm,
Trading alongside friends and making
hmm,
it a gamified social experience so that there's more connectivity. How can you basically ensure engagement, right? Because
hmm,
engagement driven products, the outcome is so nice that you want to drive the community becomes
hmm,
extremely entrenched and you start loving the product. So I think it's a way of building. Again, honestly, like it boils down to what is the core problem that you're
hmm,
solving and what can be the best manner to solve it.
hmm,
A share chat approach is not wrong. A Misho approach is of course not wrong. They are incredible in their own ways,
yeah.
right? Which one do you go for and why will depend upon what your end use case is,
Hmm,
and yeah, I mean, what the fundamental problem you're solving for is.
hmm, hmm. I have also noticed this thing in in the startups, or in the products which have the social feature. I can see
Right.
that if I have noticed this, if there is value being provided, then the then the network effects will play its role, and then the distribution will be easier, and I have also seen this people coming on that platform due to FOMO. Like I have seen
Yeah.
FOMO playing a role in distribution, like
Yeah.
when it's mixed with network effects.
Yeah, no, that's interesting you bring it up, right? I think part of what network effects does is play on FOMO, although that's not a perfect classification of
Hmm.
it. But what does network effects mean, right? You capitalize on one particular aspect and you build it out in a way that it binds everyone together. So it becomes inevitable for the others to come in. What did Facebook do, right? If a
Hmm.
certain group of people are on Facebook, then you're bound to come on that network because the effect is so parallel, right? It will only make sense for the network and for everybody in it to actually be on the platform, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So if you can build it out, I mean, there are four forms of network effects, and there's this company called Apna which is doing incredibly well, serving the rising population of the country, right, and building a professional network for them. And it rides on those fundamental parts where if you can build network effects in your business,
Hmm.
distribution will follow. If distribution follows, you can then have multiple insights, and all of the things that you want to then do
Hmm.
can then be served to a wider range of audience because the feedback loops becomes just more stronger, right? And you have data driven insights that will tell you what needs to be done. So definitely I think network effects are extremely interesting, yet to be seen, how tangible there can be frameworks around it so that
Hmm.
it can be replicable. Although I think that's also a double-edged sword, right? If it
Hmm.
is replicable, then is the network strong enough, and if not, then why? So yeah,
Yeah.
those are things that do exist, and happy to chat about it further, but that's my brief point there.
Yeah. What I have seen is, like, mode creation is important from day one. Like I read Parvez Chopra's tweets a lot on Twitter. Like he seems to be such an interesting and curious guy, and I was reading one of his articles where he says that what founders don't focus from day one is mode creation once the problem is validated.
Right.
Or if you're building something, mode creation is necessary. And I was also having a chat with a friend who's like deep into the startup ecosystem. He was asking me, like, what mode are you building for Finave? Like, because and what I have drawn out of the conversation is, if your product can be easily copied, then it's a weak product. Because see,
Yeah.
if we get to the context, like, weak product in the sense, like if you don't have a moat, then your product is weak, because moat is essential, right? Like let's just take example of FinShots has made a huge community, right? Which is also very responsive, right? It's not
Yeah.
just a dead community. So tomorrow, if they launch even a normal finance product which already exists in the market, they would be able to get a share of the market, because they already have a huge community. Or
Yeah.
but if we talk about some other platform just doing that, they won't be able to copy something, because they will be facing this problem of the market share. Like, how do we get people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so
No,
I'm saying this thing.
absolutely. No, I think that's completely valid. If you look at it from a very, very basic standpoint, what are moats, right? Moats are basically creating defensibility around your product. Now, what does that mean in its sense? It basically boils down to what are you doing and can you do it well enough such that your consumer will not let go
Hmm.
of it,
Hmm.
right? So, whatever use case you might be solving for, if you can get one thing right there and go deep, that's your mode, because then you become irreplaceable. Once you become irreplaceable, you're the go-to choice for somebody who's not already using that, or for the people who are already using that. For them, the switching cost on a qualitative standpoint is so much that it becomes difficult. So,
Hmm.
for instance, FinShots, right? What have they done very well? They've written great, simplified content and hooked on, made sure that they hook everybody on every time they come. So for me, it becomes very difficult to not check the FinShots app or not go through that article every morning, because it's become a part of my routine.
Hmm.
Now, other companies can come and do this, right? They can get great content, folks. They can really simplify stuff. But now the fact that they've got me hooked becomes their moat, because they made something and they led that for a long period of time. So I
Hmm.
think, uh, like, labeling is, again, like, these are all fancy labels that we put on things, right? But eventually boils down to, as a company, can you do one thing really well and make a difference in the consumer's life? Because the consumers are, as opposed to normal opinion, we're not greedy, we're not spoiled for choice and things like that. We just want somebody or some product to actually fulfill all our needs, and if that happens, we're going to stay loyal to it, right?
Hmm.
And that's what companies need to focus on. If you can positively impact consumer behavior through whatever way, and whoever be your consumer, right? Even if you're serving enterprises,
Hmm.
fundamentally you have to ensure that you make a positive difference in their life and add value. And if you can do that, then you inevitably become a part of it. And the more the people, the more the better for your product. And quantity, not essentially, but the quality of it definitely rises. So I
Yes.
think that's the sense of building moats,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, if I have to just put like what moat is in simple words, it's like previously there used to be kingdoms, and kings used to create this trench or something to just protect their
Yes.
castle from from anyone jumping into it, right? So that's what basically moat is. And as as we're talking on this, I can like there are two things I want to talk about. One is like let's just start with the first one. First is it's a I find this theory of Kunal Shah fascinating, with this delta greater than four theory. I don't know if you have heard, if you have read it or not. So we have seen this classic example of WhatsApp and Signal, right? Few months back, where people were like, okay, WhatsApp is ruining our privacy. Let's go to Signal and all. But if we see 1 month back, the same people are again on WhatsApp, because it was not possible for all to transfer, because Signal was like, see, honestly speaking, people in India don't take their privacy, like, seriously. So for
Yeah.
them, Signal was no better than WhatsApp, right? It was as
Yeah.
similar as WhatsApp. So for you to shift on some of the platform, it has to be better than the previous one. Obviously Signal is better than WhatsApp, because it gives you the privacy. But again, right, people haven't taken it seriously. And like, if it's a social product, you need people on it. So it's just that
Yeah.
Signal just got downloads, but people just like, it was me
That's
also, like who just deleted Signal after that, because I was getting too many, like, too much of friction in communication.
right. No,
So
absolutely. I think that's a perfect example, right? I mean, especially in messaging, you don't use too many messaging products for the same use case, right? If I'm doing professional, if my usage is professional, I'll probably have Slack on and I'll be communicating on WhatsApp as well. But I don't usually use a WhatsApp Messenger, Instagram Direct, and everything all at once, right? And that becomes a fundamental problem. So unless Signal would provide differentiated value where they can make a fabulous product, but it's just simply impossible to beat the scale at which WhatsApp is, right? I'm not sure of the numbers, but I think they have north of somewhere around 1 billion odd users, which is almost 1/7 of the world. And you can't just beat that, right? I mean, you need a messaging product where everybody else is available. If the other pieces are not there, no matter how good the product, it doesn't serve the fundamental use case of reaching out, right? If I want to reach out to you and you're not there on that product itself, why will I go there, even if it's like a magnificent product? So that is there. And no, I completely like that. Kunal's theory on Delta 4 is absolutely great. Although I honestly feel that increasingly enough that Delta variable will decrease because the fundamental layers of solution will exist and people will start getting smarter. So they will even change for a, like, let's say Delta 2 positive energy as well, right? If you give me a better product and greater value, even if it's not transformational or even if it's not life changing, I more likely will shift to that because I am a more practical consumer now. I am a more, like, I'm talking again, I'm the hypothetical example here, but I as a consumer are more knowledgeable. I have more spending power. I use the fundamental solutions and now I'm looking for better ones, right? So I think that theory works well for the first order solutions. For the second order solutions, I think we'll just move for small variants in Delta as well, right? Like a better email experience, like a better calendar experience. It's not like a Gmail does not give me a great product experience, but a superhuman, it just takes it to the next level. Maybe it's not transformational, right? It does not reinvent email, but it does make email extremely better. And maybe that Delta variant there is not 4 there, but definitely 2, 3, right? But I still would rather use superhuman than a Gmail. So that's a good example, I think, to illustrate what I was mentioning.
So, like when we're talking about the social products and its distribution, like I noticed this tweet of Varun Maya, the founder of Avalon. He said something that all platforms on scale become Facebook, and then they become Tinder, right? And and over there, I concluded with, uh, if we see the human biology, right? Everything we do has the motivation of mating embedded in it, right? Like everything we do, right? So basically, and I've also seen this products, right? Facebook is a classic example, which is becoming a junkyard, right? And like this is my personal observation. And on the other hand, if I see Reddit, it's I see it as very, as very premium sort of social media. Like obviously both platforms are different. Both platforms are different, but this is what I've experienced. So what's your case on, like, how can you prevent it from becoming just like becoming just like Tinder, or just for mating at scale?
Yeah. I think therein, it depends upon how well ingrained engagement is in your product and what are you facilitating, right? I mean, for instance, the LinkedIn algorithm works in a way where comments make sure that your algorithm go further, right? So what that does is that forces people to put up posts which will ensure engagement. Now, what drives engagement is something that consumers rely on. So it's more about fighting our eventual instincts itself and not going with the herd to some extent, so that we can preserve our individuality and that will reflect in engagement. So content will be driven in a way that maybe does not encourage just engagement. It encourages qualitative engagement. Maybe things like that will come in with the advancement of technology. I think that will start getting built in, right? But it's just like boils down to basic instinct. Like it's about what is being incentivized, what do we want, and how we can preserve it. Now all of those things sometimes match. With Facebook, what happened is, I think the primary use case of connecting got solved, but better forms of entertainment kept coming in, right? Snapchat became a low touch entertainment point. Instagram became a high frequency usage, knowing about our friends in a very simpler manner. Like we don't want to go through text. Can we like know about our friends through audio or video or through pictures, right? That became Instagram. And then simpler use cases came up, right? Like LinkedIn solved for professional networking, Twitter solved for short form consumption. That is where I think Facebook had everything built in, but no one thing there. And that is why people came on it. It established, it is the, I think Facebook is the fundamental usage of social media. It drove social consumer behavior towards social, right? That is the first point that actually drove it to that level. But after that, specific use cases got born. So again, I think Instagram, very specific usage, Snapchat specific, WhatsApp is a more broader, but again, specific messaging usage. So that happened. And I think it all stems for there. We have to just like any problem that is being spoken about, right? Like in terms of driving engagement or not letting it becoming a redundant platform, if you're calling it that, we have to ensure what you can do to stay ahead of the curve, perceive what consumers will evolve into, and then capitalize on it. I know it's easy, like we are talking about people who've of course thought this through, so we can only debate upon it on some extent, but as consumers we can just be more responsible to drive a platform in our limited capacity in a better manner.
Got it. It's so interesting
Yes.
to talk to you. I can see that smartness coming from Indian Silicon Valley podcast, like hosting so many smart people. It's really interesting. Yeah. What do you think? How's the startup scene being shaped up for Gen Zs?
Sorry, the last part I didn't get.
How is the startup scene being shaped up for Gen Zs?
Yeah, I think it's a ripe space. I mean, I cannot stress enough on how well we are poised to really like break it in the future, right? Like I firmly believe that the next wave of global companies will be born out of India. It's a matter of time, in my opinion. And we're seeing very, very early signs of it. But we are poised beautifully to just disrupt the world. And Gen Zs are at the center of it all. I mean, we all will be born and will grow up in a generation where risk taking will be preferred and facilitated and supported, right? Where failure will be celebrated, where opportunities are in abundance, where talent is available, people are available in terms of human capital at your disposal, right? If you need a shoulder to cry on, if you need a mentor, if you need folks to work with, if you want to hire people, everything is available, right? Capital is available in abundance. Infrastructure is being developed for you by people who came before us and continue to build that, right? So I think it's ripe for innovation. The more like there's no question of where the opportunity lies. Multiple problems are yet to be solved, and we are the ones who are going to solve it. So I think we have to keep picking one thing at a time and getting it out of the park for some manner, because it's an exciting space and exciting problems there. Land of opportunity, as they call it, India. And yeah, great time for us to be there, because it's just the inflection point is such that we can thrive.
Yeah. I can see, startups like FamPay having a huge advantage, because if we see Gen Z would be the next consumer, right? And FamPay is one of the first few startups which is built for Gen Zs, right? And
Yeah.
and they have also inculcated this social dynamics in the platform, and and what I can see is the advantage they have over understanding the Gen Z is way higher than other startups, because if you see, they are the next consumers, right? They know that they don't like ads. Like why are people have stopped going directly to Facebook? Like why
Yeah.
don't people directly use Facebook, right? It's because we are seeing so much of ads. It's so much of
Yeah.
friction. It's a bad experience according to me. So we are seeing that as you did to millennials by showing ads on a platform chala liya, by garnering the revenue and all. You can't do it with them. And moreover, I'm seeing this trend of subscription model in India, like being started, because what I see, subscription model in India is still at a very nascent stage, right? We have seen it in the edtech sector, we have seen it in the hospitality, obviously, and we have seen it in entertainment segment.
Yeah.
So these are the three segments we have seen in. On the other hand, if we just compare it with the America, then over there, like every startup has somewhere a subscription model built in, right?
Yep.
So I see that subscription models, like 10 years down the line, would play a major role. And like
Yeah.
it would become easier for companies to generate revenue. Like if we see the Indian startups now, it's like they are trying newer and newer ways to, from where they can get bit from here, bit from there, for the revenue. But
Yeah.
but for startups in America, it gets easier for them, right? Like I have seen Wine app, which is a you need a budget app in US, which most famous app. It charges $34 a year. Like
Mm.
imagine one user paying $34 a year. Like that's very
Yeah.
big thing for startups in India. Like it's
Ab-
somewhere around I guess $10 is yeah, it's somewhere around 2,000 rupees a year. Like
yeah.
that's huge
That's
for startups in
yeah.
India.
That's baffling. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, one pointer that I would really echo is the first part, right? I think FAMPay, as you mentioned, staying close to your consumer and having that instinct of what your large base, the base you're serving will have, is a huge advantage, right? That's a natural
Mm,
instinct that will always direct you in the right pathway.
mm,
And that really makes the difference, right? A lot of people do not have that luxury. I don't think it's a very, very significant advantage either, but it definitely is an advantage. And given how difficult or challenging the startup journey is, having these advantages can make all the difference. To your second part about subscriptions, right? I think a large part of why US has seen that is again the economical difference in
yeah.
spending, right? Consumers are more advanced, they have more technology at disposal, and they've gotten used to it to now come to a point where they're okay for with paying for products in a recurring manner, right? Because
Mm,
ideally a subscription economy is a more stable one, right? Like from
yeah.
a very startup driven
Yeah. Yeah.
perspective, because there you know how many consumers are coming in, how many, what is the definitive revenue you're going to get next month, you know, for now itself, right? You know what your drop off rates are, tangible results exist. But
Mm,
in India the freemium model has done traditionally better, and there's no right or wrong there, right? I mean, there are multiple ways in this can be manifested. You can see the differences in the Chinese economy and the
mm,
US economy. For instance, a mega star app which can do everything.
mm.
Traditionally in US, that has not worked out. In China, WeChat is a great example of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
MX tries to do that in India to become a one-stop destination for entertainment. And amongst the tier 2, 3 consumption class, they are very, very common,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm.
So, but if MX Plus starts charging $200 a month, I'm sure they're going to see a drop off, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I guess it's about where we are at which stage and what the consumers prefer. So many of these questions will get answered with time purely because the consumers will tell you what they prefer,
Mm,
right? Are they okay with seeing an ad but not paying a definitive amount every month? That's upon them, and that's a decision which we will leave to all of us, right? You and I will perhaps prefer to pay that monthly nominal amount as opposed to be exposed on to ads on a daily basis, but maybe somebody else will not. So it's about how we see
yeah.
things work out. But yeah, pivotal questions to ask and perceive what lies ahead of us, and how we can take one step at a time towards it.
No, great, and I can also see this. Like there's this also super app in Indonesian markets called GoTo. Like they have built, like they have merged, and it's massive. Like it's
Project.
massive.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like it's massive. Like when I was reading about it, I guess a month back or so it happened. Month or 2 months back it happened. It was like it was like I was shocked. Like how cool Monopoly is this?
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, no, these are parallels that we can really take inspiration from, because this just testifies to the consumer segment. Again, Indonesia is a place where spending is higher, although similar trends can be seen in terms of internet penetration and all of that. But yeah, no, interesting times. Let's see which formula plays out. Although super apps have not worked out in India as of yet. But yeah, some players are trying, and let's see how that comes across.
Yeah, Tata is trying. Like, Tata's vision is to build. Even Reliance is behind that. Reliance is now stepping into the food delivery segment. They have already stepped into the e-commerce with this JioMart. E-commerce. Yeah, and I was like, like JioMart is the classic growth story. If I have to say, I was just reading about them few days back, and I was like, they launched in 2020, and they did a pivot in 3 areas in Mumbai. And in next 6 months, they when lockdown happened around they launched in November. They did three. They did they tested MVP in 3 areas, and then somewhere around March or April, they launched in 200 cities worldwide. Countrywide. And I can see in Play Store they have like 10 million app downloads. Like that's super fast. And what's the significant thing that has played this change is the free delivery. Like I have seen India as a country where we would like this has happened in my home only. Like this happens every day. That we would spend much of time to find this a 10 rupee coupon for for a discount, rather than let's just utilizing that time to somewhere to do something productive, or just to just earn something. So I have seen this trend. And on the other hand, I've seen this that people in USA value the time a lot. Like they wouldn't mind spending $20 to to save that 30 minutes or 40 minutes, or just to get a better experience. I've seen this.
It's how we equate time. Yeah, I mean, I think Ankur Warikoo talks about this really well, and the video in which he mentioned it. But we don't equate our time with money. For money is again a means to our to an end, right? And that's what we look at it. Since we have been taught like if you go back traditionally, right, conventionally, we've been taught to save every penny, and that's right. I mean, we should do that, but we've never had the lens of equating time with money. And sadly, what we think is life is where we are, our expense and currency is money. But if you look at it, a lot of times it's actually time. If you look at time as a currency that we are spending, then we will be able to take much smarter choices beyond the economy as well, right? Beyond what goes out of our wallet. If you look at it from just that standpoint in life too, there'll be so many things that we can trade off and make easier trade-offs, because it'll all make sense then, right? And depend upon what your priorities are. It could be whatever, but then you just have a better lens to it. Would you rather wait 2 hours in a queue to save a certain transaction processing fees, or would you rather pay it online? Would you rather think of a Netflix expense as, I don't know, 800 a month, or would you rather expend it on the 60 hours you spend it on it for per month, right? I mean, those are smaller aspects that we all have to look into. But yeah, it's an interesting perspective. And from what I can gather, again, I've been lucky to have spoken to a lot of great people. And one pattern that I've seen across them is that they value time like anything else, right? That is such an important factor for them. They don't want to lose any second, simply because your potential and so much of what you can do is manifested by time. And so looking at time as a form of currency is something I've recognized at each point in time. And that helps me make better decisions as well, because then we'll start valuing things on a higher front, and we'll know what we can or cannot do. So yeah, if there's anything you take away from this episode, I would reckon that you start looking at time and at least valuing it for how you're spending it, if not looking at it from a currency standpoint per se.
Yeah, like like previously, I didn't used to value time. Okay, but I have always noticed this thing. Like all the smart people out there value their time a lot. I feel somewhere they have realized it, that okay, time is invaluable. It comes for free, but what you have lost, you couldn't gain it again, and it's uncertain. You don't know
Absolutely.
when your time is over, right? And and they value it a lot. And I guess I guess I have taken like 2 years or a year back. Even I wasn't serious about time, but when I jumped in to build Finav, I understood how important time is, right? Like in a startup, you're a lean team, right? At the starting, like obviously, capital is the difference over there at start. You don't want to raise capital because because much of your equity goes away because there's only 100%, right? कितना बांटोगे तुम बांट के. So
Yeah.
all the other thing is you because you feel that money comes on your credibility, so it's better to test it first. If it works, then go for further money. Lots of things. So I have seen this thing that uh, you have to value your time. You have to like I have started this habit of journaling my tasks. Like I have seen on a typical day, I have somewhere around 6, 8 or 10 tasks a day, and when you don't journal it, you just get confused. Abhi kya karu, abhi kya karu, abhi kya karu, abhi kya karu. That's what happens. But when I started journaling, things started to get easy for me because I can just look at them and I can just calculate. Okay, how early, like how important is this? How urgent is this? And
Yeah.
and one of my founder friends also recommended me this a course by Ankur Warikula. He created a course on time management, and he was
Mhm.
like, bro, give this a watch. You struggle with it a lot, and I'm like, yeah, sure, it's just an hour. I'll go with it. So I just paused and I was baffled, like how they just like manage time. Like Ankur said that he creates a 2 by 2 matrix and he just writes down important yes no, urgent yes no, and then he divides the task. and
Yep.
and once I start doing this, I have seen a lots of things I'm able to do now. Like I can now go for gym. I can I can read books for much longer time. I can hear to some philosophy podcast or maybe Jordan Peterson and also I can just focus on a lot of things at now. So I have seen this when you are able to manage your time better, you can do a lot of things rather than
Yep.
just rather than just playing with it. हाँ अभी कर लेंगे ये है वो. I'm getting confused, and then to do that, like there is this human psychology, okay, um that you don't need motivation, you need clarity. like
Yeah.
like I have seen this thing. We just go on YouTube अरे इसका motivation देख लेते हैं and we'll start doing then. But the thing
Yeah.
is, we have so many things in our mind that what we want is this simple piece of clarity. Once we have the
Yeah.
clarity, we'll be able to do it. So like that's a pain for your mind when you don't have clarity. So your mind then distracts you. Okay, take a break, do this, do that, and then we'll come to this. So it does that you are spending your time to just figure out how you'll be managing your time. So it's just like you're not even spending, you're wasting it. So what I've seen is this gives you immense clarity and it helps you a lot.
Absolutely. No, echoing the same point, Parvez. I think I completely agree there. And I think the recognition needs to be that sometimes people just go into autopilot mode. For
Hmm.
instance, for me as well, when I was in college, things were ad hoc, right? We thought we'll ride the wave.
Hmm.
I thought we'll get stuff done either way, things will work out and
Hmm.
all of that. But there was no there was no conscious recognition of my time being important and I have to demand it, right? I mean, the idea is not so much to as plan, but at least be in control of it so that you know what you are doing. Knowing is the first step,
Yeah.
recognition and acceptance is the first step. Action can be the second one, right? I mean, if you don't know or recognize, you can never act on it. So I think not being on autopilot mode, and again, like from a very crucial standpoint, like we are told to just do like a just do your job in the best possible manner and follow
Yeah.
traditional beliefs, right?
Hmm.
But if you actually bracket time, right? Like I run a podcast along with my professional commitment, and I ensure that I'm bracketing well, I'm not deviating myself a lot.
Hmm.
I'm not focusing on the podcast more than it is required. I am doing as much as possible on my job and everything, right? So again, this is a very tiny example. Founders do this in a massive manner. If you think
Yeah.
about the number of things, and you know this, right? The number of things that a founder has to do,
Hmm.
from execution, administration, hiring, fundraising,
Hmm.
so many things that exist that only a founder has clarity of. Look at the long term. I mean, it baffles me to understand how they manage time, but definitely the core theme is your time is important. You have to be in control of it. So start getting more focused about it. What you choose to do with it will
Mm,
be different ways of the same thing, right? Same or end objective being reached,
mm.
which is the importance of time. But no, it's great that we spoke about this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But and I've also seen this thing, like in a country like India, you cannot just simply follow traditional beliefs. Like we are a status-driven country. Right.
Yeah.
Like this is and when you see status given countries, like what is status? It's just like people seeking social hierarchy, right? A better social hierarchy. So
Yeah.
so I have seen okay, status is like status is like basically what drives it. It's there in every like this is a trait in every other species in nature. It's not just that we as humans have, but if we see in nature, like the animals let's just take animals for example. Most of them take decisions based on the status, right? There may be other symbols for it, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have this concept of wealth, and obviously through wealth also we gain status. but but yeah, it sustains longer. So yeah, I have seen
Yeah.
this, and and what you like, social hierarchy is the dangerous thing for one to seek. Like what do you want to seek? Like what will people think of me? That's the end of the that's the end goal you want to seek. uh, and basically you cannot do that. So yeah, it's a bit funny, and yeah, it's dangerous to follow that the status driven thinking.
Yep, yep. No, I'm no Kunal Shah, so I think his words on status will be better. He puts it in a great manner.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, I think a large part of it is how our history has flown, right? I
Mm,
mean, under the British, there was a lot of oppression, a lot of
mm,
that, right? So
yeah.
confidence was broken, status was broken. Societally, we were convened to, be at the bottom, be
Mm,
oppressed. And once
mm,
that got liberated, the people who did make that liberation possible, so many of that, it was carried down in some shape or form. Patriarchy has been a common theme, and so many
yeah.
things have happened. That's a social, I think, social factor that has to be incorporated for. Not much to talk about there, but what we can do with a progressive mindset, at least a handful of us or a majority, to make sure that shift happens, we can all play our small parts, right? I mean,
Yeah.
on a more like startups are a good manifestation of a progressive
Mm,
society that is not, I think, as status driven as one may imagine,
mm,
because it's more innovative in nature. There are more uh, core objectives to be reached as opposed to status. Because I don't think any founder that I've spoken to, at least, does this for achieving a name for himself or a
mm, mm,
societal standpoint or even finance for that matter, right? They
yeah.
don't do it for a monetary objective.
Mm,
They just do it out of the pure passion for innovation, and
yeah.
that, I mean, is just phenomenal to observe from a distance. And
Mm,
that's why I have so much, I mean, respect for everyone who takes the high pathway of trying to start a company. Success, failure, good, bad, unicorn,
is
not
the other thing.
unicorn, admission, yeah, those are all results that we
Mm,
can, all contemplate, and we can judge. Society will judge that, some people will, but I think the act of undergoing and wanting to start a company in itself is a very bold one that only a handful people can take. And so there is a lot of merit to everyone who takes that bold decision. So huge respect for every founder out there.
yeah. Like thanks for the kind words. I'll take a bit for myself.
You should. You deserved it.
Yeah. And I have seen this thing. Okay, like all the great founders, like they never ran behind the vanity metrics. They were
Yeah.
never like, okay, आज 100 million raise कर लिया at the valuation of 1 billion, we have become a unicorn. But when you like when you chase vanity metrics a lot, the existential crisis hits you a lot early. Like when you are on that journey, like I have observed this, there has to be something like vanity metrics, like chasing vanity metrics doesn't make sense because for everyone it's different, right? Now
Yeah.
like we can see like every startup being built is built on a different scale, is built on a different model, right?
Yeah.
We cannot just compare let's say we just cannot compare Instagram with other not social startup, right? The distributions are different. For them, the metrics are different. So yeah, vanity metrics are the worst thing you can face in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that just shows like as a mass population, we may imagine and get attracted to some of these valuations. But I think for the best founders, and again, the subjective of best here simply being the ones who give it their all, right? No valuation metric here. But I think those people are just so core focused on solving what they set out to solve, that these things are just milestones, right? And even maybe not even that, I mean, for them it's just part of the process. For them the results are higher. For them customer delight is way larger than a valuation, a paper dollars that may not even make sense eventually, right? So I think these are good. I mean, there's no downside to being excited about valuations, but oversizing them is the problem, right? It's good to be happy, like it's good to, of course, it's a good validation of what the company is doing, it's a good validation of the team, it's a good validation in terms of the team who's like doing everything, right? Like they get the confidence. Society also, why so much of the confidence is there in the Indian society now, and people are being encouraged to join startups, start them, and work for them, is simply because there are these validation metrics as well. So while they are important, I think they shouldn't be stressed upon more than what is required, because they don't necessarily, I don't know, show you the merit of what some thing is doing, right? Like they might just be numbers on a paper.
It's just like don't celebrate the funding a lot, like
Yeah, celebrate it as much as it is required. I think any too much of anything or too less of anything, right, can be detrimental in more ways than one. If you
it
just
has to be.
yeah, if not balance is also difficult. So all of this is of course like very ideal, but the point is that don't
Stay
judge
humble.
something by valuation, and
Yeah.
don't overthink it. Celebrate it, but don't chase it. That becomes an important aspect.
Yeah, I get it. It's such an interesting conversation. Okay, so so this is the last topic I want to talk on with you. What is an unbanked sector or a problem according to you? Like we know that tier two, three cities have a lot of potential built in them. Till now, I have seen that we are solving the problems for tier one cities, and if it's the tier two, tier three cities, there is a lot of potential over there. The talent over there, and I can see Unacademy bringing this re-level, which is of course will be a game changer for them, because they want to get the best talent in their company, and in other companies in the tech ecosystem, sorry, in the startup ecosystem of India, so it can just like be at a place, be on the world map somewhere. Obviously it
Yeah.
is now, but at a better position. So yeah, re-level like is something, and I can see there's a lot of potential in the tier two, tier three cities. What's your take on this?
Absolutely. No, that I think it's undoubtedly unimaginable the kind of potential that tier 2 3 cities have, and it will get explored. I don't think it's the fault of the ecosystem that better solutions have not come up. It's in the process, right? Like
Yeah.
no progress can happen in a day. We've now seen India come to a point where we are challenging global innovation,
Yes.
and that's been even out of the tier 1 cities, naturally so, because there was more access here, more infrastructure, all of the same things we mentioned in the past, right? But I think slowly enough, the same shift will happen to tier 2, 3. And when that happens, the snowball effect for the entire country will be magnanimous. And that is waited to be seen. And I'm sure it will happen. Unbanked sector, apart from, tier 2, 3, which is a consumer segment and multiple products will win. I think sustainability is going to be a clear winner, maybe 10, 15 years down the line, because we have to, right? Like I do not think there is any substitute than resorting to sustainability, because there are evident like metrics will tell you the reality of what is happening throughout the world, and it is inevitable that we find better solutions for sustaining the globe, right? And when that happens, somebody will do it. Hopefully it's somebody, a lot of people from India, right? So I think that's something that personally excites me, and I'll be in the lookout for who creates, a clean tech sort of a unicorn, or some sort of validation for innovation in that space. I think that's there. And other sectors, I mean, gaming and everything, which are some sort of niche sectors, have not been explored. I'm not an expert on either one of them, but yeah, on a personal front, I think sustainability is definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, Mukesh Ambani said the same thing, right? Like gaming is going to be huge.
Yeah,
Gaming is going to be
absolutely.
huge. I want to see how it turns out. Like because I'm a big fan of Xbox and all. Like I used to play it. Currently, I'm not getting the time to. But yeah, I want to see it how it goes to the next level. Like obviously, he might be talking into the context of streaming and all. But still,
Yeah,
it's huge. It's huge. Like we have seen this. The action gaming is already going on YouTube. Like it has already reached the saturation point where now the other games are there, which are unexplored. And then I
yeah,
can see a platform like Twitch going massive in India because streamers now want a separate platform for them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, definitely, completely reckon with that.
Yeah. So let's call it an off. I guess there are a lots of
Sure.
things we can go talking to, like uh, like it's been like an hour, like we are talking. I didn't even
Oh,
realize this. I didn't
yeah,
even
yeah.
realize this.
Neither did I. No, this was great. I mean, thanks Parvez for having me. This was a very
My
different
pleasure. My pleasure.
conversation to discuss a bunch of different aspects, ranging from I think a large part of funding and a large part of thought processes. Love what you're doing, and thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
It's our pleasure. Thanks a lot for coming.
All right. Cheers.